Okay, welcome to the Natural Resource Committee. I'm Senator Bruce Bostman from Brainerd, representing the 23rd Legislative District, and I serve as chair of the committee. Today, the committee will be taking up several gubernatorial appointments as well as LB 17. We will take the items in the order posted. If you are testifying today, please fill out one of the green testifier sheets that are on the table at the back of the room. Be sure to print clearly and fill out completely. When it is your turn to come forward to testify, give the testifier sheet to the page or to the committee clerk. When you come up to testify, please speak clearly into the microphone. Tell us your name and spell your first and last name to ensure we get an accurate record. First, we will begin each hearing with an appointee or introducer's opening statement, followed by a proponent, opponent, or neutral testifiers. We will be using a 3-minute light system for testifiers. When you begin your testimony, the light on the table will be green. When the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates you need to wrap it up for your final thoughts and stop. Questions from committee may follow. Also, committee members may come and go during the hearing. This is just part of the process, as senators may have other meetings or hearings to attend to. Just a reminder to please silence or turn off your cell phones, and that verbal outbursts or applause are not permitted in the hearing room. Such behavior may be cause for you to be asked to leave the hearing. Committee members with us today will introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Good morning, I'm John Frederickson. I represent District 20, which is in Central West Omaha.
Good morning, Julie Slama, District 1, Southeast Nebraska, Oto, Johnson, Nemaha, Pawnee, and Richardson counties.
Hello, I'm Jana Hughes, District 24, Seward, York, Polk, and a little bit of Butler County.
And on my right,
Senator Tom Brandt, District 32, Fillmore, Thayer, Jefferson, Saline, and southwestern Lancaster counties.
I'm Senator Mike Jacobson. I represent District 42, Lincoln, Perkins, Hooker, Thomas, Logan, and McPherson County.
Senator John Cavanaugh, District 9, Midtown Omaha.
Mike Moser, I represent Platte County and most of Stanton County.
Yeah.
Sir Moser also serves as vice chair of this committee. Also to my left is committee clerk Lori Bollerson, and to my right is legal counsel Cindy Lamb. Our page for today for the committee is Delaney. Thank you very much for being here and serving with us today. Our first point of business will be the reappointment of Mr. John Shadle. Shadle, please step forward.
I just told you.
How you been? Mr. Shadle, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I think we seen you just a few months ago, actually.
Exactly in April, so
This is for
kind of like Groundhog's Day here. So anyway, good morning, Senator Bosselman and members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is John Shadle. It's spelled Johnshadle. I appear before you today in consideration for my reappointment to the Natural Resources Commission. I hold a bachelor's degree from the College of Agriculture and a master's degree from the College of Natural Resources, both from the University of Nebraska. I'm currently employed by Nebraska Public Power District and have been for over 4 decades of employment with NPPD. I've gained experience in natural resources, endangered species, water, hydrology, and been involved in numerous projects that have allowed me to be an active participant in managing Nebraska's natural resources. I've served on the board of the Lower Loop Natural Resources District, also the Columbus Park Board, and recently I've had the pleasure to serve on the Scoring and Review Committee for Water Sustainability Fund grant applications. As a lifelong Nebraskan, I remain dedicated to the mission of protecting our natural resources and would appreciate your support in my reappointment to the Nebraska Natural Resources Commission. This concludes my testimony this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Shadle. Sir, questions from committee members? So since your appointment that we had last time till now, have you had meetings on the commission, and what was the meeting?
We did. I was told that when you're a newbie on the commission, you get appointed to look at the stack of papers, all the grant applications for the water sustainability. So I contacted a couple of folks that have been on the commission for a while. They kind of told me the lay of the land. And it was a very interesting 2 days in Kearney last week, as a matter of fact. So lots of really, really good applications. And as you might suspect, more asked than we had money for. So it was a difficult choice. And we've made our recommendation. I think that goes to the full committee for our meeting in August 14th, I believe. So then they'll either say yay or nay to our recommendation. So, yeah.
Are there any other questions from committee members? Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Shadle, for being willing to do this. It's another form of public service. On the applications for the water, what percent do you think will get approved and what percent were not?
You know, there was the range, Senator, was varied from, as I recall, 35,000 to almost 9 million. And so it's highly dependent, but this would just be a guess on my part, but I think we were able to fund probably about 80% of the ask.
Okay.
So, and again, number 6 in my head, we had close to, I believe, $10 million this cycle to distribute to, or to make a choice for, so.
And the ones could come back that were not approved next year and reapply?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Other questions? Senator Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for being here and thanks for willingness to continue to serve after finding out what it's really like. So the Water Sustainability Fund, do you know the source of that revenue, where the money comes from for that?
I wish I were more informed about that, but I believe it comes from the general fund, but I should know, but I'm not going to speak like an expert there. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm just curious, because we had some debate in the budget last time about taking some money out of the environmental trust and putting it into one of the, it might have been the water resources cash fund, not the water
Okay.
cash fund, but I don't recall.
Okay. But yeah, again, there were several very good applications and would really forward the natural resources effort in the state. Again, not surprising, more asked than there were money.
Thank you.
Sure.
A lot of need out there.
Senator Moser.
When I drove across the plat this morning, I could see sandbars. Is it gonna go dry this fall, you think?
Looking at the forecast, Mike, I think there's a pretty good chance of that. You know, we're almost into August, so hopefully it won't go completely dry, but you're right, it has fallen.
I always hate that, driving over there when it's all weeds and sandbars.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes,
thank you.
certainly.
Seeing no other questions, thank you for your willingness to serve. Continue
Thank you.
to serve, yes. We did not receive any position letters for the reappointment of Mr. Shadle.
You're catching on.
Is there anyone like to testify in a proponent for this reappointment? Anyone testify as proponent? Anyone testify as opponent? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, this will close our hearing for the reappointment of Mr. Shadle to the Nebraska Natural Resource Commission, right? Next, we'll have the appointment for Kennon Meyer to the Natural Resource Commission. Please step forward and welcome to the committee, and please just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Good morning, Senator Bosselman and members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is Kennon Meyer, Kenonmeyer, and I am here this morning for my appointment to the Natural Resources Commission. A little bit about myself. I am an attorney here in Lincoln. I have been practicing for 7 years now. And my area of practice has been primarily and almost exclusively both water and environmental. And I have enjoyed my practice quite a bit over the past 7 years. I've learned a lot and gained a lot of valuable experience in the clients I represent and the different projects I've been able to be a part of. About 2 years ago, I was asked to serve on an advisory committee for the city of Lincoln in their search for a secondary source of water. And in that role on that committee, or advisory council, we met for a full year, about once a month. Members from the Lincoln community came together to assess and analyze the secondary source options available to the city, worked collaboratively with that group to come up with ultimately our recommendation to the mayor. And I really, really enjoyed that process, working with those individuals, analyzing that data as a group. So after that process wrapped up, I kind of thought what my other options might be to develop my career further in natural resources. And the commission came to mind from my years of practice. So that is what I am here before you this morning, hoping to be appointed to the commission.
Thank you. Questions from committee members? I do have one. The firm that you belong to is Canal, Wilmot, and is it Jarrett?
Turetsky, that's a tough one. Yep.
And is Don Blankenau primary in that? Is he and so Don, Mr. Blankenau does represent water issues from time to time, and we've had him testify at different hearings before. Do you see any conflicts between this potential appointed position and serving in that, being a part of that law firm?
Sure, that's a great question. Don Blanknow, Tom Wilmoth, and Dave Jaretsky are the named partners at that firm, and we do represent quite a few natural resource districts. In that capacity as general counsel, I've made a disclosure to the director of the department, letting him know of that general counsel role and my intentions to recuse myself from any action that would directly be a conflict with any of those districts. I made that disclosure to Tom Riley and plan on making those disclosures to the Accountability Commission in the future as well. So when those do arise, I anticipate that I would recuse myself from those situations.
Any questions, committee members? Sir Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for your willingness to serve. Thanks for being here. First off, are you a DePaul Blue demon?
I sure am, yes.
Got several
Undergrad.
siblings who are also
Okay,
DePaul Blue
great,
demons,
yes.
but anyway, that just jumped out at me.
That's
So the position is municipal user. Does that just mean person who consumes water from a municipal water source?
from cities of the primary
Primary
class.
So
Yep.
Lincoln.
So Lincoln, City of Lincoln.
So, so it's not that you're not in your official capacity as a person who represents water resource districts or anything like that. You're just as a citizen member from a.
Correct. My area of practice has been primarily with natural resource districts and some more rural areas, but this would be municipal user representation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Senator Bratt.
Thank you, Chairman Bosselman. Thank you for your willingness to serve. So you're kind of a rare expert for the committee today, and I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but in your dealings with our natural resource districts, what is the number one and two things that you see happening today that they are having problems with, that they need your advice on?
That's an interesting question. Like I said, we are general counsel to a lot of those districts. And one of the things I spend a lot of time doing is helping them with their rules and regulations, updating those, making sure that those are current and are serving their district's particular needs is something I spend a lot of time doing in my practice.
All right, thank you.
Other questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for willingness to serve. This, we did not receive any, that's all we need for you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your willingness to serve on the Natural Resource Commission. We did not receive any position letters on this appointment. Is there anyone who'd like to testify in as a proponent for the appointment of Ms. Meyer to the Natural Resource Commission? Any proponents? Anyone like to testify as an opponent in opposition to this appointment? Anyone like to testify in neutral capacity? Seeing none, this will close our hearing for the appointment of Ms. Meyer to the Natural Resource Commission. Our next hearing will be for the reappointment of Rick Kubat to the Natural Resource Commission. Good morning, and thanks for coming in, and please give us some information about yourself.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bosselman, members of Natural Resources Committee. My name is Rick Kubat, Rickkubat. I am a lifelong Nebraskan. I did move out of state for 4 years. I obtained my undergraduate degree during those 4 years at Miami of Ohio. I'm currently employed at the Metropolitan Utilities District in Omaha. We supply water and natural gas to roughly a third of our state's residents. I've been fortunate enough to serve as past president of the Nebraska Water Resources Association. This would be a reappointment. Specifically in statute, there's a seat for somebody from the Metropolitan Utilities District. I've served on the Natural Resource Commission since December of 2000, and I have obtained a law degree from the University of Nebraska College of Law in 2002. I've worked for Douglas County for the first half of my career, and for the last 12-ish years, I've worked in government affairs for the Metropolitan Utilities District. And as part of those job duties, I get to follow the state legislature on a regular basis, which has been quite entertaining for me. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for your willingness to continue to serve. Other questions from committee members? Senator Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your willingness to serve, Mr. Kubat. Good to see you. I didn't know you went to Miami of Ohio. Was Ben Roethlisberger there when you?
I believe he was a freshman right after I graduated.
Oh.
Good quarterback, though.
I've heard. So you are being appointed or reappointed. How many terms have you served on the Natural Resources Commission?
So we had a retirement at MUD, and I fulfilled, I believe, the last would be 4 years or the remainder of that term. So it was December of 2000 that I was appointed.
Of 2000?
Yes.
Are you sure you graduated from college, law school?
I'm sorry, 2020.
Okay.
2020.
So that's 4 years. So you,
Yes.
okay, this is your first full term.
Just
Okay.
4 years.
And you're being appointed specifically for the municipal water utility.
So there's this, when I've been around long enough where I followed Senator Carlson as he formed the Natural Resource Commission and the allocation of state resources for those purposes. And during those negotiations on the floor of the legislature, the legislature, have a specific seat for someone from a metropolitan utilities district, of which there's only one. So in this case, the governor's choices are limited.
Well, made the best with what he's got. Thank you.
Other questions, committee members? So recently we're talked about you reviewed grants recently, applications and that. How had that process gone compared to previous years?
So Mr. Shadle spoke about it. We were in Kearney last week going over the grant applications. What I would say is we have pretty robust, detailed conversations. We go through each grant and all the scoring criteria and discuss big picture items. From my perspective, it's gone well. The allocation of our state's precious resources, I think, have gone to a lot of very important water projects statewide.
Are there any things that you would like to see change in that process from years of experience and what you have today?
That's a great question. And what I would say is it has evolved. We have recently, this is the first year where the Natural Resource Commission has made some recommended changes in terms of how we score the grant applications. And so we have made some changes. And I do think that it's important as time goes on that you evolve and you improve the process and the grant application. We've improved what I would say, our scoring criteria. We've also placed a greater emphasis on water quality in terms of the amount of points that one can get when they're advocating for expenditures specifically directed towards a water quality concern.
Are there, I guess in the applications, not knowing what those are, they're more directed in certain areas as far as water quality? Is it more as far as facility wise, or is it stream bed stuff, riverbanks, stream bed, water flow? What is it you see as was probably the main focus, or more grants this last time you received on water quality? Where were those at?
So what I would say is every single year that I've been on the commission, in terms of the kinds of grants and the requests for allocations, they're significantly different from year to year. It runs the whole gamut, Senator, in terms of water quantity issues, water quality issues, assistance for natural resource districts in terms of getting a better understanding of their specific water basins in terms of what's going on with the groundwater table, both in terms of depth and water quality, all the way over to assistance for municipal water suppliers and their ability to provide the public with their potable water needs. And then, I mean, it does run the whole gamut. And then there's, other applications for dam safety or reservoir improvements. So it's really all over the board.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your willingness to continue to serve on the Natural Resource Commission.
Thank you.
We did not receive any position letters for the reappointment of Mr. Kubat. Is there anyone who'd like to testify as a proponent? Anyone like to testify in favor of the reappointment? Anyone like to testify as an opponent? Anyone in opposition? Anyone like to testify in neutral capacity? Seeing none, that will close our hearing on the reappointment of Rick Kubat to the Natural Resource Commission. I'd like to thank all three individuals coming in this morning for the hearings for the appointments of the Natural Resource Commission. With that, we will open our hearing on LB 17. Senator John Cavanaugh. You're welcome to open when you're ready.
Such a thrill to be here in this room in July.
Hey, it's cool.
It's cool. I would have preferred a different day.
We're cozy.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman Bosselman and members of the Natural Resources Committee. I'm Senator John Cavanaugh, John Cavanaugh, and I represent the 9th Legislative District in Midtown Omaha. I'm here to introduce LB 17, which would repeal the Perkins County Canal Project Act and redirect the funds to property tax relief. At a time when the Nebraska Legislature is considering large permanent cuts to state government funding, government spending, and tax increases on hardworking Nebraskans and small businesses in our state, I offer LB 17 as a potential alternative, maybe a way out, a solution, a compromise that, if agreed to, I believe could get broad support from all sides. To put it simply, if we are in a situation now where we are proposing the sort of tax increases and spending cuts that the governor is currently proposing, then it's clear to me that we cannot possibly afford the $571 million in spending that LB 17 is proposing to cut from our budget, and also provide property tax relief. But removing this significant item from the state's budget would give the legislature the opportunity to provide direct property tax relief to Nebraskans, such as front-loading LB 1107 tax credits immediately without any increase in other taxes to offset. LB 17, as introduced, would terminate the fund on January 1st, 2025, and transfer amounts to the Economic Recovery Contingency Fund, the Museum Construction and Maintenance Fund, and the Inland Port Authority Fund to hold those funds that were drawing out of the Perkins Fund interest revenue neutral. The remaining funding, estimated in the fiscal note to be about $571 million, would be transferred to the Property Tax Credit Fund. That fund is a placeholder in the bill. If another fund during the session is a better way to provide direct relief, I would be open to an amendment. I recognize that for a number of you, this is an important project, but particularly when many of my constituents are being asked to shoulder the burden of new tax increases under the governor's plan, I cannot simply ignore this large amount of spending, which could be put to a better use for all Nebraskans. I want to thank the committee for your time and consideration, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cavanaugh. Senator Cavanaugh, is there any questions? Senator Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Bostelman. Well, needless to say, I would be adamantly opposed to this bill for a huge number of reasons. But just to be clear, so to begin with, obviously, Senator Wayne had brought this bill was brought and actually passed in 107th legislature. So it raises questions about germaneness for this special session. But to look at the bill itself, Senator Wayne brought a bill that would carve out the income or the earnings off the fund to go to these 3 pet projects in Omaha, correct?
Yes, the interest funds go to those.
Right, the earnings, the investments off of that fund. And you're suggesting we'd use that to front load the 1107 credits, where the 1107 credits right now, a large portion of those credits are going unclaimed. And most of those are in the metro area, correct?
I guess I don't know where most of the unclaimed credits are. I'm told by the governor's office in particular that about 60% in Douglas County are unclaimed.
Right.
But I don't know what the rest of the state is.
Right. I would suggest that for the rest of the state, it's fairly high in terms of what's being claimed. So the net effect of this would be, besides the fact of killing a critical project, that we have really the opportunity to either claim our water or forever foreclose our ability to take that water, which seems incredibly foolish to avoid that opportunity. In the 107th legislature, we had dollars that could be allocated. The governor made this a priority to allocate these funds. I know there'll be testifiers to testify in support that will talk about how critical these funds are to power plant in Sutherland, how important these waters are to recharging the water table, and that some of these funds actually would make it to the eastern part of the state. I think earlier we had some discussion with regard to the fact that the Platte River near Columbus now is probably going to dry up, and as you move on across to the west, you're going to see more of that. Water, I think when we had this discussion before, we talked about how critical water was and will continue to be. And all you've got to do is go to Colorado and look at how valuable water is to them. I would just ask you, as you look at, and I know you've read the compact, would you not agree that if we move forward with the project and continue to move down the road, which we've already started, that there's a point when Colorado will want to sit down and negotiate some kind of an agreement that, in my mind, would mean bringing a lot of dollars to the table to try to reach some kind of compromise to keep some of that water? Do you see that as a realistic possibility?
Well, I guess I can't speak for Colorado, but I would hope that they will come to their senses and not want us taking their land to capture our water. But I guess to go back, I don't follow the germaneness argument. The governor has made a call about the session, and that includes appropriations of funds or prior appropriations. So this bill, I think, pretty clearly falls within the germaneness of the call of the session. And as to the wisdom of changing or not building the project, I think that there is value in the project. Of course I do. I do think that the problem we've had is we built this project, or we funded the project in the 107th legislature, as you said. And the reason we did it at that point was we had money. And we said, well, we have the money. We're never going to have the money again. So let's build this big, ambitious project. That was more of the driving force, I think, at that time than actually the merits of a 100-year-old project that we hadn't yet up to that point built. And so what I'm saying is we don't have the money. We're clearly having a conversation about how we don't have the money. And so we need to reevaluate that proposition and say, well, we thought we had the money, now we don't. So now we need to reconsider how we allocate the money. And whether you think the 1107 fund is the right place to go, as I said in my opening, I think I put that as a placeholder because this is a property tax meeting, but there may be other better ways to do it. Senator Brandt, Senator Hughes's bill, that LB9, could take some of this money perhaps, and they probably don't want me throwing them under the bus in this particular conversation, but just saying, this is a large pot of money that we have appropriated and is sitting in an account for an ambitious project. But one of the defining features of that conversation was, let's spend the money because we have it. And this conversation we're having, this whole special session, is about, we don't have the money, so let's find other sources of money. And whether that's raising taxes on everything across the state, or that's slashing funding in other departments, this needs to be part of that conversation because it's the largest single pot of money that we have sitting out there. So I take, your point is well taken. I think that there's a lot of positive parts to this project, but it needs to be part of the whole conversation.
Well, to the point of germaneness, it's my understanding that the special session calls for actions based upon passage of laws in the 108th legislature. So that would suggest that this does not fit because this was passed in the 107th legislature.
I think you have to read the call as not exclusive, but inclusive. So it includes bills that passed the 108th legislature, but it also includes appropriations and expenditures.
And I would also just suggest that these dollars were earmarked for this project. The dollars were used for specific funding. So if we're going to open up funding, we probably need to go back to maybe the entire inland port project in Omaha, probably the economic development project in Omaha, stop that project and use that for funding 1107. So those dollars can be redistributed in Omaha where the 1107 credits aren't being collected. Would you support that as well?
I'm not saying I would support that, but I think it's, your point is correct that that would be a valid part of a conversation if somebody had brought a bill to do that. I brought this bill.
Thank you.
Senator Mosher.
Thank you, Senator Bosselman. Well, when you look at the big picture, property taxes are about 5 billion. So 500 million would, while that's a lot of money, even in terms of whoever that was, Adlai Stevenson or somebody said $1 million here, $1 million there, pretty soon you got a lot of money. It's only 10% of the property taxes and only for 1 year. So if we spend that money on lowering property taxes once, then the next year you're going to have to raise them again, or you're going to have to find funds to replace what that 500 million funded. And I think that would be short-sighted to spend that in one fell swoop when the Perkins Canal could affect water quality and quantity as supplied to Nebraska for hundreds of years. I mean, the original compact, was it 100 years ago? Yeah. So some of the things we do last a while. And I think we need to look at it in a long-term picture, that it's way wiser to have this money available to try to build the project and protect our water rights than it is to have a one-time bump in property taxes. And as far as the germaneness of what we're talking about, I'm sure there will be laws and bills passed 10 years ago, 20 years ago that will be affected by what we're considering in the special session. So I think your bill's a bad idea based on the timing and what it does to water quality. I don't care about so much about the germaneness. That's a question for the legal minds to argue. But I don't begrudge your enthusiasm for opposing it. Now, if you were talking about taking the money from the Ashland Lake, I'd vote for that. But nobody brought that bill.
I think that most of that money's already gone.
Why, there is no money.
So,
Well, let's dig it back up.
but I appreciate your candidness about your perspective, Senator Mosher.
Thank you.
Do you have other comments to Senator Cavanaugh?
I appreciate Senator Mosher's perspective.
Okay. Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Chairman Bosselman. Thank you for bringing the bill so that the committee has a hearing. I agree with my colleagues, as that's probably no surprise to you. I was astounded 3 years ago, we had a press conference with the governor on Star Wars. And I thought it was on Star Wars, and this is like I think Riley was there, and he stood up and said, well, we've got this compact from 1923 that Colorado owes us this water, and we have the right of eminent domain, and my imagination was fired. I mean, I couldn't imagine that a state would have eminent domain in another state. And the more you learn about this, this is kind of an ironclad gift for the state of Nebraska, this compact is, because if Colorado were to open this compact that they don't like, it would make them vulnerable on the Colorado River compact, is what I have learned. So we have an opportunity as a state to get so many cubic feet per second from Colorado, but only if we build the canal. And I think Senator Jacobson is right, and you as an attorney probably see this. If we could leverage Colorado into giving us our cubic feet per second without building the canal and make that ironclad, I would maybe be open-minded to looking at reallocation of this money. But until that time, I mean, I don't see how can you tell me how we would have leverage if we take this money out?
How do we have leverage?
With Colorado?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on what the state's going to do in terms of its relationship to Colorado. But you're probably right that the threat itself gives us more leverage than not the threat. But I think you're also right that it would be better to get the water without taking land in Colorado and without spending $250 or $500 million.
And then the second point, I guess, is this reads to me like it's going into tier 1 of the property tax credit cash fund. That's tier 1, isn't it? The PTCRF, not tier 2. Okay. And so if you dump $500 million into tier 1, that would get allocated the first year, and that would be the end of it, right?
I think you're right. Well, and I guess to go back to my opening, I'd say my point is more where the money's being directed is probably a placeholder. I think if we the question really presented is, should we move the money? And then once we have $571 million, that's the question. We're still having a question about what's the mechanism to provide property tax relief. Is it LB1, which I assume has just started its hearing? Is it LB9 that just started yesterday? Is it LB22, which will have a hearing tomorrow, I think? There's lots of proposals. I don't know how many bills ended up being proposed about property tax relief, but the one consistent thing about all that is it will take a large amount of money to do it, and we have money sitting in an account, and we're talking about raising taxes on Nebraskans. And my point is that we spent this money, and it did fire your imagination, but the reason that it started doing that was we went down this path because we had the money. And that is kind of my whole point in all this is maybe this is a meritorious project. There's a lot of meritorious projects out there, but we shouldn't just do projects because we had the money when we thought of them. We should have an evaluation about the value of the project overall in conflict with other projects. And right now we have a very large expenditure being asked of us, and we're being asked to fund it by increasing taxes on all Nebraskans. And I'm saying, why are we doing that if we spent a bunch of money just because, not just because, but because we had it at the time?
So one final question. We have 113 sales tax exemptions, and everything else in the state is sales tax. Is eliminating a sales tax exemption a tax increase?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Someone will have to pay more money when you eliminate it.
Senator Jacobson.
Well, I just have one last question, comment, I guess, is, okay, you mentioned that we decided to do this because we had the money, but if I'm not.
Not exclusively, but yeah.
Well, I want to go back. When Governor Ricketts really came up with this idea to begin with, it happened much sooner than we had the funding available to do the big funding. So Governor Ricketts had this idea for some time. We came up, as I understand it, $250,000 or $250 million to begin doing the feasibility study and allocated dollars for feasibility study. Then we came back with the budget surplus and then ended up with Governor Pillen making that a priority to fund and really push the project. So I come back again to my colleague, Senator Brandt, that this becomes a leverage issue. We have an opportunity with an ironclad compact with Colorado to bring them to the table. At this point, they've not come to the table. I believe as we move through the process, there will be discussions once they know we're serious. Even talking about removing that funding, in my mind, puts Nebraska in a weaker position. So I just want to clarify the fact that this project didn't just come up because there was dollars in the budget to be able to allocate it. This has been a project that then Governor Ricketts for several years before that.
Okay, question for clarification on your bill. It is to terminate the fund and to totally repeal the project?
I'm sorry?
Is your intent of LB 17 to terminate the fund, and totally repeal the project?
Well, I suppose my intention is to repeal the funding, which I think would effectively terminate the project. But I don't have anything against the project. I'm interested in where the money is.
Yeah, because part of my question is, I understand where you're at, where your position is on the funding portion of it. If it's not completed, if the project is repealed, if the project, we don't have the funding for it, what does that do to us as far as our water rights into the future? Does that completely, does that call us, I don't know, right terminology, be null and void for any call for water in the future? Does this basically, if we would repeal this, if we would not do this, would that say that we no longer can exercise our rights to the water from Colorado? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sure somebody here who is going to be testifying against the bill could probably do a better job of explaining, but I'll do my best. So my interpretation, my understanding is the canal is about specific water rights, not all of our water rights. So it has to do with the water in the non-irrigation season. Is that right?
The flow of water
Yeah.
through the year of the times, right?
Isn't it?
Both
Well-
in and out of season.
But it's specific to the water in the canal is not all of our water rights as it pertains to Colorado. And the position, I think, of the Ricketts administration and Pillen administration would be that we need to build this to perfect our claim on that particular water. So we have a right to it. We are not currently actually exercising it. So without the canal, we would not have the ability to call out that water. We still have the ability to call out other water that we would have a existing right to. And I think by not building the canal, I don't think it puts us in a worse position than we were before, meaning that we started building this canal 100 years ago when the compact was originally drafted and it was abandoned. And so our position now is that we can again start building the canal and now perfect that right. And so I think if we were to again say, well, we're not going to build it right now, I think that still leaves open in the possibility in the future to that time perfect that right. But it would remain unachieved at this point if we didn't build the canal. I think that's right. Does that make sense? Did I answer that right? Somebody here will correct me. Gleefully, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So your intention is the funding portion of it is what you're looking at.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Seeing none, I assume you'll stay for closing.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Anyone who would like to testify in support of LB 17, please step forward. Proponents for LB 17, please step forward. Seeing none, would anyone like to testify as opponent to LB 17? Anyone testify in opposition? Good morning, please state and spell your name.
Good morning, Chairman Bosselman and members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is Devin Brundage, DEVIN BRUNDAGE. I live in Gothenburg, Nebraska, and I'm the general manager for the Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District. And I'm here today to testify on behalf of Central and the Nebraska State Irrigation Association in opposition of LB 17. I passed out some testimony. You can read it at your leisure. I'm just going to speak from the heart for a few minutes. The testimony so far today and discussion leads me to believe you guys have read this, lived this for the last number of years. You guys are experts in this. You guys have the issues down very pat. And First, I want to thank this committee and the legislature for authorizing and funding this project. It is an incredibly important project. The budget is important. Property tax relief is important. We understand all of that, and it is, we are very thankful that the legislature is dedicated to helping the citizens reduce property taxes. I think it's also important to differentiate between spending cuts and investment cuts. There's a difference. This is an investment, and I'm going to talk about Lake McConaughey for just a moment. Our district, many of you have been on the tour, and if you haven't been, I think you're well aware of our district. We have Lake McConaughey, 1.7 million acre feet. We generate over 300 million kilowatt hours of hydro generation. We supply water to other irrigation districts. We serve over 100,000 acres on our own of surface water, provide cooling water to generally for generation, an incredible array of benefits to the state of Nebraska. They built the project for $50 million in the 1930s. $50 million, and I'm sure they probably didn't have the money then either. Today, that $50 million investment is returned by the end of January annually in economic benefit to the state. Could we afford to have deleted it, not had it present? I don't think so. This is the same story. And I'll even go a little further than leverage. Building the canal and especially the reservoir, the ability to store that water for the benefit of the people of the state has paid off for the last 100 years from the vision of our forefathers. And this committee and this legislature has started us down the same path of vision for the next 100 years with this project. The economic impact is incredible. 1 year, last year, 2023, the amount of water was $13 million of benefit to the state. If you price it on that Colorado transfer from the basin on the other side, more like $580 million of value in one event in the spring that we could have stored. It is incredibly important to the people of the state of Nebraska, and those visionaries from 80 years ago couldn't have imagined the opportunities their project would hold for us today. Reversing course now will begin the erosion of that existing benefit and the untold promise for our grandchildren for tomorrow. So with that, I'll close and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Jacobson.
Thank you, Chairman Busselman. Mr. Brundage, thank you for your testimony today, and thank you for the work you do every day for all of us in western part of the state. I want to focus a little bit on having gone on the tour. Can you speak a little bit to the issues that we're currently having, and if not you, maybe others can bring. A couple of years ago on the tour, we had watched the year before, a very dry year. The Western Canal did not get the allocation of water that it was supposed to get. My understanding is we're continuing to have problems right now with Colorado delivering even the base amount of water. Is that true?
I can't speak to the delivery across the state line, but again, another dry year. Lake McConaughey sets at the mid-40s. Having the ability to have had that water in the previous year stored up and ready to deliver would have taken that the runoff that allowed that value of the storage water in Lake McConaughey to be multiplied again and serving in those dry years.
And my understanding is with the Perkins County Canal, and to be clear for those who don't understand what the canal is, it's not just a canal. It's a canal with a couple of reservoirs that will store the water. So we're bringing the water south of the Platte River, and actually in Heath County, where there would be a large reservoir, probably similar to Calamus. And then there'd be another overflow pond next to it. The hope would be that we'd be able to collect enough water there in a normal winter to where we could perhaps replace the outflow of water from McConaughey for the irrigators that are needed, that need that water for surface rights, and still have that water in McConaughey to really deliver on that would make it all the way to the western end or to the eastern end of the state. Is that your understanding?
That's correct, Senator Jacobson. The value of that, what I hear is maybe a 130,000 acre foot reservoir. That's about enough capacity for us to serve our entire district for a year. That's an incredible amount of benefit, especially when you hit those dry times and we aren't able to store enough water in McConaughey to meet all the demands downstream. That would be an incredible benefit. And through the plumbing, and if you've been on the tour, you've seen the plumbing, the ability to divert that water even to go past Gerald Gentleman and provide energy generation on its way to the final destination to irrigate our farmlands.
And I know you probably can't speak totally to this, but I would also note that if we can keep more water in McConaughey, I hear the estimate is about 2 million people from Colorado come here annually for recreation on Lake McConaughey. That's a significant tourism benefit to Nebraska. When that lake is down low, those people aren't coming.
Well, we've endeavored to help people understand that there's a lot of beach, regardless of where the water level is. And to be honest, I think that message has gotten out there. We see a good number of visitors and Gable Parks. I think in 2019, nearly 2 million visitor days. But yeah, it is important to balance all of the needs, and by having additional resources and storage available allows us to better manage those surface water supplies so that everybody's needs are met every year. In the 2000s, there was not enough even for our irrigators. We had to allocate our irrigators allotment of irrigation water. This would help go a long ways to making sure that never happens again.
Thank you.
Sir Brandt.
Thank you, Chairman Wasserman. So if this gets built, is this a central project, central irrigation?
No, this is a project for the state of Nebraska.
So central really would have no jurisdiction over this?
It is a DNR, Department of Natural Resources would be the state of Nebraska would own it. And whether or not there's some opportunity for us to help, them, we've made sure that offer's there to help them operate it if need be. But the water is the state's to use as the compact allows.
So because McConaughey wasn't built till the 1930s and this water compact was 1923 on the South Platte, was there a water compact on the North Platte that feeds McConaughey before McConaughey was built?
There is, and I don't know the history well enough, a agreement of some sort with Wyoming, but Central built their project, and that's actually a great point. Today, we have all these benefits from the project that our forefathers built in the 1930s with only the dream of capturing these water flows that would come out of the mountains. There was already development. The dams in Wyoming had already been developed. Today, not only is that benefit part of the Perkins County Canal and reservoir, but also this perfection of the water right that is kind of the second prong of this project. So there's actually two benefits to this that are there.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. You're close to Colorado. Obviously, we don't have a Colorado expert here. What do you see happening on the Front Range? I mean, are they going to totally dry up the South Platte forever?
I think it makes sense if whatever opportunity they have to bring water to the Front Range, they're going to do it. I mentioned the $8,000 an acre foot value. That's how they value the water that they bring from the Colorado Basin back across. At that value, that one event, that 172,000 acre foot event last spring is $580 million of value. I think they will do what it takes to make sure that water is utilized in the state of Colorado.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? You have you're speaking kind of one or two specific areas of interest with irrigation and with the lake itself. However, I think another part of this that we're not talking about is just the stream flow further downstream to our cities, and that especially if you get into, as Sarah Mosier mentioned earlier, in one of the appointments at the Platte, is it going to dry up? Surface water going to dry up? We know the water is still moving, underground, if you will, and sand's moving back to surface water. But this is also an important part of the canal we're talking about, is that flow to continue to be able to augment when those times happen. So that's important to all the cities, all the way down through to Omaha, Lincoln, Omaha, who draw water, Columbus, North, all those cities along there also draw water out of the plat, that this is important for them as well to ensure we have that stream flow to them to be able to augment, to meet those needs in the future in those dry years. Is that accurate?
That's absolutely right, Senator Bosselman. And even the canal and reservoir itself will recharge the aquifer out there in western Nebraska. Some of that water will return back to the river all year long, just like we see today. And though we talk about the river being dry here in August, I think that was more of a regular occurrence prior to development of these projects. Those return flows and that buildup of the aquifer around these projects provides return flows back to the river year round that benefit and bring alive the river that maybe when it wouldn't have been previously.
Right, and especially as we continue to hear about Lincoln looking for more water, as they expand and grow, the importance of the wells they have in the plat itself are very important and ensure that stream flows there for them. So
I think the department's report was like 7% of their municipal water supply comes from the South Platte that would be lost.
Right. Other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to testify in opposition to LB 17? Good morning, welcome. State your name and spell, please.
Good morning. I kind of like this room. It feels like I'm talking to people closer. I like that. Senator Bosselman, members of the Natural Resources Committee, my name is Kent Miller, Kent Miller. I am General Manager of the Twin Platte Natural Resource District, where their offices are in North Platte. I am testifying today for the Twin Platte Natural Resource District and for the Nebraska Association of Resources District. The Twin Platte Natural Resource District opposes LB 17. The Nebraska Association of Resource Districts also opposes LB 17. For the last 40 years, beginning in the 1980s, I have been promoting that Nebraska utilize the provisions of Article 6 of the South Platte River Compact and build the Perkins Canal. And in probably the first 30 years of that, people just laughed at me. Now people begin to take it serious because of what's happening on the Front Range and the need of water. The majority of the South Platte River is within the Twin Platte Natural Resource Districts. I have been observing for over 50 years the development that is occurring along the Front Range of Colorado and their desperate need for water. Kind of on a side, folks that are building a home in Parker, Colorado, they have to get a water right for a tap for that house. They're building multi-million-dollar homes and they're getting a tap that's good for only 20 years. And they're paying probably $100,000 for that tap. That shows how desperate those cities are today and are going to be in the future for needing water along the Front Range of Colorado. And, for a lot of years, the Front Range of Colorado has relied upon water from the western slope, bringing water over from Dillon Reservoir, the different tunnels to the Front Range. That is no longer available. There are shortages in the Colorado River. I enthusiastically applaud Governor Ricketts for proposing the Perkins County Canal in 2022, and I'm thankful the legislature in 2023 did appropriate funding. And then fortunately, Governor Pillen is continuing to support it. This is the right time, and Nebraska cannot wait any longer. This is essential for the economic health and welfare and environmental needs of the Platte River throughout Nebraska. Nebraska needs to build this project now. This is a project that will benefit Nebraska for centuries, and that's been talked about. It's been so critical that what if this legislature, what if folks in Nebraska in the 1930s would have said, we don't have the money that particular year to build a central project, to build an NPPD project. Now is the time. This project needs to be built now. Please don't abandon the work you have put in place. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee members, Senator Jacobson.
Thank you, Chairman Bosselman. Mr. Miller, thank you for coming and testifying today, and thank you also for what you and your college do for water and water conservation across the state and for management of our water. We're fortunate to have the Ogallala Aquifer here, and certainly in North Platte, we're fortunate to have it right under us with really abundant water, although it too is being allocated. I really want to get back again to this idea that it's almost laughable that we think about $500 million to be able to go in and perfect our interest in something that I'm not even sure what kind of a number in terms of dollar value you could put on guaranteeing that flow from Colorado. Where would you look at that in terms of economic value of this water?
Well, as one of the earlier testifiers said, one event, the benefit from one event is what the cost is to build this project. But in the Twin Platte Natural Resource District, since 2004, when this legislature initiated integrated management of groundwater and surface water, the Twin Platte NRD has not been able to allow any new irrigated acres in the Twin Platte NRD. That's for the last 15 years. That means about 11 or 12% of our district is irrigated. Our entire district could be irrigated. We're sitting over an aquifer of 500 feet thick Ogallala aquifer, and yet we're having to tell our landowners they can't develop any new land. We are doing that. That's important because we want that aquifer to be available forever. I mean, we're here for a very short period of time, but folks are going to be using that land for a long time. By building the Perkins project, that brings water into the Twin Platte NRD. It puts water in reservoirs. It helps with the groundwater recharge. It's not going to create any new irrigated acres in the Twin Platte NRD, but it's going to protect the irrigated acres we have today. You know, our farmers, our growers, they understand there's going to be no irrigated acres. What they want, and they're desperate that we protect what they're using today. I mean, the economy of the state of Nebraska is agriculture. It's not trading of services that happen in many municipalities. That is the economy. That's what this project does, is it protects agriculture, it protects the economy, and not in just the Twin Platte RD, throughout the state.
Other questions? As Sir Cavanaugh, we talked before, is the funding portion is, I think, is the main objective or concern with what we're talking about with the bill, not so much as opposed to water flows, stream flows coming into the state and ensuring we have that. What effect do you think, if any, as he mentioned that, you know, we started building a canal 100 years ago, 90 years ago, whatever it was. We started building this now, taking the project back up again now. If we had stopped now, what effect, if any, do you feel may have on future water rights that Nebraska has from Colorado to South Platte?
Well, you know, and folks that I know in Colorado, and, you know, and I work with counterparts in Colorado frequently, they've assumed probably for the last 30, 40 years, Nebraska's not going to build this project. They've developed plans of augmentation where they take water in the winter and put them in recharge ponds so then they can drill additional wells in the lower reach of the South Platte River. They're taking that water so they can irrigate additional acres in their lower reach, irrigating those additional acres. If it's not exactly meshed, then that's hurting the Western Irrigation District and their water right in the summer. Western Irrigation District is the other component of South Platte River Compact. They have a right for 120 CFS, but only if it's in the lower reach. I mean, there's many years they're lucky if they get 20 CFS during the summer. By building the Perkins Canal, not only are you benefiting, protecting those flows, but you're also putting Colorado on notice that those plans of augmentation, if they are not going to be able to use them, that is in turn impacting the summer flows in the Western Irrigation District. I mean, Colorado has used every trick in the book, if you will, to use the water in South Platte. And they're going to continue to use that until the river's dried up. I mean, we're at the tipping point now.
So do you feel that, and if I understand, do you feel that this would negate or cause Nebraska say we no longer will exercise our water rights?
I'm sorry,
Well, do you feel that if we stop this funding for the project's not stopped, if you will, funding for the project would be potentially stopped. Do you feel that that would basically forfeit Nebraska's rights to future requests, water rights, to continue to build a canal in the future? Anything for us to ask for any funding, for any, to exercise the water rights in the future?
well, for Nebraska to use that portion of the compact, it has to build a canal. Otherwise, it cannot ask for water from Colorado. But on the flip side, I've observed, I mean, I've been doing this job for over 50 years. This is the first opportunity we had the money to be able to build this canal. If you use the money now to convert it to some other use, I would find it very difficult that Nebraska would be able to generate $571 million in the future to build this project. So I think not only, I think if you take the funding away, you're killing the project. And I'm concerned you're killing it forever.
Senator Hughes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bosselman. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, I went on the tour of the Perkins Canal project. I think it's very important. I don't think we have any idea what 20, 30 years down the road, what this is going to mean. But my next question is, so we've got the money there. The project is going. What is the status? Are we digging? Are we doing something? Are we waiting for a new director? I don't know what we're doing.
You know, I as you get older, you want things to happen quicker.
Right.
I mean, this is a big project. When you look at a canal that's going to be built, this is very similar to the canal that flows water from Lake McConaughey through Sullivan Reservoir, Maloney Reservoir. This is the timeline for the design was estimated to be 5 to 7 years.
So we're in design right now.
So we're in the design phase now. The Department of Natural Resources, they hired a consortium of engineering firms. It's led by HDR. I mean, that's the largest engineering firm in the world. Olson is part of it. JEO is part of it. Miller and Associates, which
So
is a
that's
small engineering firm,
happening
is a
right
part of
now.
it. The design is in process. The last I heard, they're about 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sir Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Bosselman. Thank you for testifying today. Point of clarification. So if everything's working right, we're guaranteed so many cubic feet per second from Colorado. And eventually, if that water's in the Platte, it goes all the way through the state and it goes into the Missouri River. Do we guarantee the Missouri River so many cubic feet per second from Nebraska? Do you know?
I don't know. I have enough to do to keep track of the Platte River.
Okay.
But no, I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that the benefits of the water in the South Platte benefits entirely across the state. I mean, I mentioned earlier, 7% of Lincoln's well field originated out of the South Platte River.
Today. Yeah.
Today.
Do you know what that would increase with the canal? Because we should be getting.
That's
more.
gonna protect that.
That's 7%.
You know, as I've watched over the years, I've watched the flows on the South Platte dwindle. And I've used the term, we're at the tipping point. If Nebraska doesn't do something now, we're gonna see that dry South Platte River. Up until now, between flood flows and runoff, you know, it's basically balanced out. But I've seen those flows drop over the years. We're to the tipping point that in my lifetime, I'm gonna see a dry South Platte River in the winter if this project's not built.
So I don't know if you can answer this, but wouldn't our Attorney General have recourse today, even before the canal is built, because there are specifications in the existing compact?
Not for winter flows.
Right.
Winter flows it's very specific in the compact. You only have access to that 500 CFS if you build the canal.
Right.
Otherwise, the only provision in the compact is what Western Irrigation District receives in the summer. And it's a very simple compact. I mean, today it probably would have taken attorneys 50 pages to write it. It's 7 pages.
All right, thank you.
Other questions from committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Good to see you guys.
Anyone else like to testify in opposition to LB 17, please step forward. Good afternoon. State and spell your name, please. Or morning, I guess.
Good morning, Chairman Bosselman, members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is John McNally, JOHNMCNALLY. I am a Government Affairs Manager and registered lobbyist for the Nebraska Public Power District, and I am here to testify in opposition to LB 17. In 1923, the Nebraska and Colorado signed the South Platte River Compact to settle a case brought by Nebraska's Western Irrigation District and divide the waters of the river. In 2022, the legislature had the foresight to give the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources the authority to construct the Perkins County Canal and appropriation to make that happen. That legislation passed because the Perkins County Canal is necessary to protect Nebraska's long-term interest in the water of the South Platte River. This will help stop Colorado from their continued efforts to use up the South Platte River before it can deliver any water to Nebraska. Since the 2022 legislation, the state of Nebraska has prudently made significant investments of time and money into the design of the canal and property acquisition. South Platte River flows benefit a significant portion of Nebraska and a majority of the state's population, positively impacting irrigation, hydropower production, power plant cooling, recreation, fish and wildlife, and the municipal water supplies as it combines with North Platte River flows to form the Platte River. More specifically, water from the South Platte River is diverted in MPPD's Sutherland system near Cordy. The water flows into the Sutherland Canal system and provides for recreation opportunities at Sutherland Reservoir and Lake Maloney. It provides cooling at Gerald Gentleman Station, the largest power plant in Nebraska, and hydropower at the North Platte Hydropower Plant, in addition to providing incidental groundwater recharge to large areas of Keith and Lincoln counties. MPPD returns the water at North Platte, where the water is diverted by Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District before it is returned to the Platte River to be diverted for irrigation at MPPD's Gothenburg and Dawson County canals. It is also diverted for irrigation and hydropower production at the MPPD-owned Kearney Canal. Dawson and Buffalo counties benefit from the incidental recharge of water from these irrigation canals. All the while, the South Platte River water provides for flows which provide benefits for river recreation, fish and wildlife, and the Platte River Program, which is an important agreement amongst the states of Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, and the federal government. If the water in the South Platte River were not available, more water would be required from Lake McConaughey and the North Platte River, which has faced shortages in previous years. While MPPD's surface water interests in the Platte River system end at Kearney, the local benefits for municipal water supply, groundwater recharge, fish and wildlife, and recreation continues across the state and includes benefits for the state's 4 largest cities. In closing, I want to thank all of you who have taken time to join MPPD and other interested Nebraska entities to see firsthand the locations where the project would be built and how that beneficially impacts Nebraskans in so many different ways. Many of you on these tours have remarked about the vision of our predecessors. We need to build on the legacy that they have given us. The Perkins County Canal does just that. Finally, Nebraska, mostly in football, does not like to lose to Colorado. This bill waves the white flag to Colorado, allowing that state to continue to deplete the water for the South Platte River. And for that reason, NPPD respectfully asks that the Natural Resources Committee does not advance LB 17 or any other legislation defunding the Perkins County Canal. That concludes my testimony. I won't take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Other testifiers in opposition to LB 17, please step forward. Anyone else like to testify in opposition to LB 17? Seeing none, anyone would like to testify in neutral capacity? Anyone testify in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, Senator John Cavanaugh, you're welcome to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Natural Resources Committee. It was a fun conversation, and just want to first start out by saying we all know that Central has the greatest logo of any resource district or power company in the state. But I think that we should not go unmentioned that Twin Plat has a very nice logo as well. I would suggest taking a look at that. So the conversation, obviously, I think we all know, I think everybody here has been on the tour. We've had a lot of these conversations about the value that this project brings to the state of Nebraska. And my point in bringing this bill is not to say there isn't great value in this. And I probably will ask afterwards, talk to Mr. Brundage about whether, and I don't know if he's the right person, but whether we're talking about putting hydro into these reservoirs. I think I'd be interested just to know the answer to that question. But yes, of course, there's a lot of value here. But one of the things when we're talking about tying up a whole lot of money like this, I know we are saying, Mr. Miller said, if we don't spend it now, we'll never spend it. But there was a lot of conversation here about this project's going to last for generations. It's going to bring value for generations. That's the type of thing that you spread out the cost over a long period of time. And we put aside this money because we thought we had. And now it's become clear that we don't, and we're looking for other sources of money. So the conversation here is not, in my mind, it's not whether this is a valuable project or whether we should do it. It's more about how we're financing the project. We're tying up a bunch of money that we could use to front load 1107, which Senator Jacobson pointed out some very good points about, but we're talking about raising taxes on folks to make that front loading work, when we could take the money out of this account and then over time put money back in as it's necessary. This project's not going to be built next year. I think Mr. Miller said it's 30% done with the engineering. After, still 70% of engineering done, land acquisition, putting shovels in the ground, all that's going to take time. We don't have to tie up this money and then go and find other sources of revenue. We can use this money for some of the things we're talking about right now and continue in this commitment. If this really is bringing the value that we all think that it probably does, we can put the money in year over year and fund the project as we go. And, heaven forbid, I know the state doesn't borrow money, but this is the type of thing you borrow money for. Big, ambitious projects that pay off over time, as opposed to front loading all of that money. So that's the point of this conversation. In terms of other possible things aside from what we're talking about here, the compact, allows us for the 500 CFS in the winter months. We're building a canal that has 1,000 CFS capacity. I brought that up when we allocated this money, which was in the 108th legislature. Senator Jacobson looked it up. We allocated the funding for the 1,000 CFS canal in 2023 when the compact calls for 500. If we're scraping the couch cushions looking for money right now, maybe we should just build the canal that allows us to get the water that we're entitled to and not that, hopeful amount of water that, by the way, if there's extra water to go into the canal, that water will come in the Platte River. We don't need the 1,000 CFS canal to capture that. And sorry I didn't bring it up earlier. You guys would have mentioned that it won't go into the reservoir, so I'll do that for you. The 1,000 CFS canal allows us to put the water into the reservoir. But we're spending more money for that potential when we would capture that water either way. So that's why I brought the bill to have that conversation, to put it in the context of when we're talking about raising taxes on Nebraskans, we have a bunch of money here that we could divert for the time being and backfill at a later date rather than raise the taxes currently. So I'd be happy to take any other questions. I think I covered everything I wanted to mention. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Bosman. I applaud your sense of fiscal responsibility. I'm looking for money. Some of my suggestions would be, if you can't eliminate this, maybe we could eliminate TIF or the Good Life districts. There's some easy money, or the Nebraska Advantage Act. And if this would have been any one of those, I would have been very, very interested. So I don't know, maybe you've got some ideas.
I mean, I have other ideas, but this is the only one that I thought would get all of us together here so that we could see each other one last time. Make Chairman Bosman come back from Africa just to listen to me one more time before we ride off into the sunset. Thank you.
And to have this bill, the first one that we hear.
Yes.
So I appreciate your thoughts on the 500 million, usually you can now, but the challenge that the legislature has, the state has, is, and I believe the right term is, we can't encumber. We cannot We cannot project out, we cannot tie up future funds. So we have a project to build and we expect it to build, projected to build X amount of dollars. If we don't have the funds today and secure those funds today, we cannot secure quarter, a half today, expecting future legislatures to then come up with the remainder of those funds. So if we don't do that now, there is no guarantee that those funds will be available in the future because of whatever reasons may be with those legislatures. So with that importance of a project like this, I guess knowing that or seeing that, I'd like you to respond to that. I mean, we don't know that we'd ever be able to have the funds in the future because we cannot cause future legislators to fund it.
No, that's a good point. I would say that the opponents of this bill, proponents of the project, make a compelling case. And I think if you're going to ask somebody to spend that kind of money, I don't think it's too much to ask that you continually demonstrate that value to each successive legislature. And I think that it's not a terrible method to say if it's going to be something this large, we could come back every year, every biennium and ask for $100 million and have to re-propose that to that legislature. You're right, it would be uncertain at that point. You'd have to actually get the buy-in of each successive legislature. But that would be a question, yeah.
Senator Jacobson.
Well, just not to get nitpicky here, but as I read this, section 4 would suggest that we would outright repeal section 61-301, 61-302, 61-303, and 61-304, which consists of the Perkins County Canal Project Act passed on April 12th, 2022 by the legislature 42-0-3 and signed by the governor April 20th, 2022, 107th legislature.
Excellent reading and eagle eyes. That was the act itself was passed, and I guess 2 points. One, obviously open to amendment if folks want to just take away the fund but leave the act in place. I'm open to that. But yeah, that was the enacting of the act. The appropriation was done in the last year in 2023.
I would agree with that.
So that's kind of, I think, we're talking about there. But yes, to your point, I think your other point about repealing the act entirely, that's in the bill currently. I think if we moved it forward, we could have a conversation about how exactly to structure LB 17 and its reappropriation of that fund if we decided to leave the act in place and leave some of the funds intact and only take out, say, $400 million. I think that would be a valid compromise. That would, I feel like I would be giving up something, Senator Jacobson would be giving up something, and we'd all probably be upset, but, feel okay about that result. I'm not going to speak for Senator Jacobson. Thank you.
A lot of things upset.
Any other questions from committee members? See none. Thank you very much. That'll close our hearing on LB 17. There were 5 proponent position comments and 8 opponents on the LB 17 that the committee received. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
I thought it was kind of nitpicky.